So today, I would like to give a introduction to the list, which is basic data structure in Python. So if you think about what is, I think I made a mistake. This is not programming, it's a algorithm. Algorithm, all right. So if you look into the concept of algorithm and data structure, basically these are the two very important aspects for programming. Basically, the algorithm is the way, the method you solve a certain question, certain problems using mathematical or logical tools. So that is an algorithm. And data structure is another aspect. Basically, that is a set of tools you can use when you solve problems using the algorithm. So list is one of the important data structures. Actually, in the previous lectures, I mentioned several times like array, and especially when we talk about this string. But actually, in Python, there's no array. Instead, it has a list. But that's very similar to array and all other data structures in other programming language. And let's look at what is array. Um, so there are different variables. The most commonly seen ones are these single variables, right? So like the one x is assigned to be 2, or and then x is changed to 4. So most of these variables have only one value in them, and you can easily change the value stored in that variable by using another value assignment statement like this. So this is the common variables, and only one value will be stored. And when you change it, the old value is overwritten, right? But for a list you can think of it's a like this kind of luggage bags. So you can put multiple variables in a single. I mean, you can put multiple values in a single variable, and this variable is a list. Um, and here shows two examples. Um, you have one variable called friends, and this is a list. So it stores here are three friend names. And also here shows another variable. You can see you can store not only just one variable, but multiple ones. Not variable, I mean values, right? You can store multiple values into this variable. It's single variable, but stores as many variable as you want. So basically you have a collection of these variables. And this kind of method, the way of list actually gives you some very good properties. That is, you are actually putting things which are different but related to each other into a single variable. And that will make the access um, of these values much easier. Means you can basically just like you're collecting similar stuff and put them together in a single box, or in this case a single bag, or a cabinet, a set of cabinet cells, right? And when you want to find one of them, you just go to that cabinet or that bag and access each of the cell and find what you want. So that's the idea of list. Put things together into one single variable with multiple different values. All right. Any questions? Okay, let's move on. So basically, when you want to access the values of the list, you probably want to use this square bracket. And also, if you want to define a constant, but that's a list, what you could do is start with a left bracket, square bracket, and end this list with the right-hand side square bracket. And in between, put each of the values and using comma to separate them. So that's how you define a list, but a constant list means all the values stored there are some specific numbers, right? Not variables. So a list can be, I mean, in a list, those values could be any Python object. It could be like the ones shown here. These are integers, or each of the element in this list is strings, and this one is even more interesting. It has multiple type of variables. Like this one is a string, and you have an integer, and this one's a floating number. So you don't need to worry about the types. Python will memorize each of the types you put there. All right. Also, you could even put another list to a list, right? It sounds a little confusing, but let's look at this case. So the first variable is an integer 1, right? And a comma. And then you have another list with 5, 6, 2 values in that list. And again, the third element in this list is another integer. So you have 3 elements in this list, but the only thing special is the second one is another list. So that's a very, I would say, a little tricky case you need to understand. Any questions? Okay. Also, a list could be empty, means okay, you put nothing in it yet, right? So that's easy to understand. You have a bag but empty, right? You have a carbonate cell, it's empty, right? So that's easy to understand, and you can always put things into that list. So this is the definition of list. For example, we actually had some examples in the previous lectures. In this case, you have a list with 5 numbers, and using a for loop, you can loop through the list. I always say it loops through array because I just got used to use array to represent such kind of data structure. But in Python, there's no array. There's only a list. So, but they're pretty much the same thing. But anyway, look at this. You have this list, and use this for loop. You can print each of the elements in this loop. List, and it turns out you have this. This is the result, right? Print 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then basically you finish up the loop, and then print the last sentence, right? Blast off. So that's an example we use list in our previous lectures. So actually, the loop and list and loops are best friends. So we always use them in pairs, because that's a really convenient way to traverse each of the elements inside the list and do something. The most simple case is just print it out. Sorry. So the simplest case is just print out that element inside the list. For example, like this one, you have a list named friends, and you have Joseph, Glenn, Sally, 3 elements in this list, and a for loop. And during the loop, just print each of the elements. And it turns out you will print Happy New Year, Joseph, Happy New Year, Glenn, Happy New Year, Sally. And after that, you have finished up the looping through this list, and then print the last sentence down, right? So that's how this works. So if we look at this list, there are actually multiple details we need to look to understand. So it's very similar to the string. I would say string is more like a special type of list. But list is more general because you can put not just character, but also other type of object or variables or not values in it. So actually, we can get any single element in the list using just an index to specify where the element is located inside the list. For this case, basically this list is called friends, right? And using comma, you separate the 3 elements. And if we look at a illustration of the list, actually you are looking at 3 cells, and each of the cell there is 1 element. The first one is Joseph, and then Glenn, and then Sally, right? And also we use the index to indicate where that element is. Again, starting from 0, 1, 2, and if we go, that's the forward way, right? I don't know if you still remember. There's a reverse way, right? -1, -2, -3. But anyway, this is anti-intuitive. I don't recommend you use this, but just notice that there is another way starting from negative, and that's the end of the last element in the array. Let's don't touch it at this moment. Just use this array, which is more intuitive. And with this index systems and together with the square bracket, you can easily access each of the elements in this array. For example, if you want to take the second element, in this case, its index is 1 instead of 0, right? Remember, instead of 2. Remember the index starts with 0, right? And it turns out you have friends, 1, and that's Glenn, and you print it out. That's how you take one single element from a list using index and the square brackets. So far, so good, right? Any questions?
Can you import a list from like a text document or something and put them all, like have it categorize them by entry 0 through however many there are? Like say you had like a text document with Joseph, Glenn, Sally, James, and John.
Yeah.
Would it, like, could you import that and make it into a list? Like, you know what I mean? And then name it as a list and then do the same command, like print friends 1. Like,
of course,
could you have it read the text file and turn it into?
I got your point.
Okay.
So right now we are manually assign value here, right? Know what are the names, but but what you are talking about is you have a file, let's say, and you have no idea what is in there, and you want to import it and do something, in this case
Yes.
is simply print. Of
Right.
course, yes. That's why we have this list. Yeah, I
Okay.
will definitely give you a chance to testify. I mean, to try some very interesting examples. Basically, you use this together with the file input, what we had previously, and you will have the chance to practice more in the list. All right.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, so there's a basically I mentioned the string and the list are quite similar to each other. So the major difference between them is list is mutable while string are immutable. Mutable for string means you can change, I mean, for a list means you can change the value of certain elements in that list. But for string, you can just read it. You can just access that a certain element in the string, which is one character, but you cannot change the content of string. So if we look at this example, so you have a string. See, this is the indication of a string, the quotation, single quote mark, right? So you have a string which is and a variable called fruit to contain that string. Of course, you can use the index to access each element in that string. So we put one, I mean 0 here means the first elements you want to access for that string. But in this case, you want to change the value of the first element inside that string. And it turns out you will have such error. I will give you 1 minute to just key in this code and to see whether you will have the similar error or not. Just open your Jupyter notebook. I'll give you 1 minute, testify these 2 lines. Just assign the banana to fruit and try to change the first element of fruit and see what's going on. Okay? Just 1 second, 1 minute. Okay. All right. Okay, I think you all have similar errors like this. That means, well, you cannot change. Okay, what's going on here? You cannot actually change the value of a string. So what you can do is for this case, you just want to put to make sure all the character in this string to be a lowercase, right? In this case, you have to use this lower function for a string, which will convert every character in a string and call and return a new string, which with the result, and you assign it to another variable. And after printing it out, you have this new string with all lowercase characters. So that's why we say string are immutable. So what if we have a string, I mean list. For example, you have this list with all integer numbers, and let's say you want to change the third element by using elements, by using the index 2, and you want to change the third element to another value. Basically, original is 26, and you want to change it to be 28. And after that, you just print it out, and without any error displayed. And you do have a new value at the third place of this list. So that means for list, you can change elements of the string using the index operators. So that's a very important difference. You will say a string and a list, a general list. And the good thing is, if you want, if you are trying to modify the value of a string, you cannot do it, and there will be an error displayed, and you will know you have something wrong here, right? And I think one important ability you should have is to read this error information, and actually it contains the possibility for why this is happening, and you could make change accordingly, right? I will give probably after this class, in next week, I will give you one lecture about how you debug, how you handle error informations, and I think that's very important. And probably after next week's class, I will give you the first project, release the requirement for the first project, and you can work on that. All right. So another concept is this len function. So in the string function, for the string, we have the len function as well. And also list has a len function to return the number of elements in the list. In this case, this is a string, right? And it has the quote, single quote mark here. That means it is a string. And if you use the len function and print it out, you will have a value 9 because there are 9 characters. Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. The space is also is also counted as a character. So that's I think that's 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7, 8, 9. So in total, there are 9 characters for this one. So that's the len function for a string. So what if you have a list like this? And remember, len will return the number of elements. That means if some of the elements, even some of the element is a string, it will not count each of the character. Instead, it will take the whole thing as one because it's one element. It is considered as one element in this list. So in this case, we have 1, 2, which are 2 integers, and the third element, that's a string, and the fourth element, which is another integer. So it turns out it will return 4. So that's a very interesting difference between the len in list and the len function in the string, and you have to know this difference. So another function is called the range function. Basically, this range function will return a list of number that range from 0 to 1 less than the parameter. So how to understand it? For example, if you put 4 as the parameter of range, it turns out it will return a list contains 4 number, but starting from 0 and ends with the number one less than the parameter you input here. So it's like you are generating a list of index, right? It sounds, I mean, because it starts with 0 instead of 1, it's just like an index, right? A set of index. So actually this range function can be used to construct an index loop using for and an integer iterators. So, and let's look at what it does using the range. All right, so now you have one list called friends and 3 elements here, which are 3 strings. And do a for loop for each of the elements in this friends list, print this line, Happy New Year, and colon, and friend, current friend, right? And turns out it will print out Happy New Year, Joseph, Happy New Year, Glenn, Happy New Year, Sally, right? Just like the one showing here. So what if there are different ways? What if you are using this? So now you are using a range, right? Range function. And the range takes a variable. I think it's a little messy. Let me erase this. It's too messy. All right. So you are using range here. All right. And it turns out it takes a parameter which is len friends. That will return, basically len will tell you how many elements in the friends list. So in this case, there are 1, 2, 3, 3. So basically in this case, it is 3 here. And again, the range takes the parameter and return a series of array. I mean, it will return a list which starts with 0 and ends with the number 1 less than the parameter per here. So in this case, actually here is 3. So it will turns out becomes 0, 1, 2. So if we interpret this line, it's just like for I in 0, 1, 2, and friends, blah, blah, blah. And turns out it will, every time I will be one of these elements, and you can have the current number of I and take one element from the friends and print it out. So basically these two block of code, they do the exact same thing, but using different ways. So this one, you directly use this friends array. And this one, you are using a range function to generate an index array and use each of the index to obtain the elements in the list and print it out. But they are doing the similar thing. Just give you some ideas how you could loop through the list using different ways. Any question about this? All right. So another operator for list is this plus sign, right? And again, this plus sign, it can add 2 existing lists together. For example, if you have one list A, which has 3 integer number 1, 2, 3 here, and another list B with another 3 integer in it for 5, 6. And if you write a line of code like this, C is assigned to be A plus B. It turns out these two lists will be combined together and assigned to C. And it turns out it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So remember, it's not a plus sign for numbers. That means you cannot simply 1 plus 4, 2 plus 5, and 3 plus 6. It's not like this. Instead, it's kind of you append this B to I mean in the end of the A. So let's do one thing. Now we have C equals A plus B. So let's flip A and B. Basically, what you need to do is to key in these 3 lines, but only thing is you are, instead of put A plus B, you put B plus A, and see if the result will be different. Also include the print because you want to see the result. Basically, only change the third line to be C equals B plus A and see what's going on. Again, give you one minute to testify. And I will ask you for the result. All right? Okay. So what's the result? Anyone have come up with your result? Are they the same? Any idea? Have you have some result yet? Oh, still working on it. So actually, I will let you know. Actually, the result will be different. If we look at the, let me stop my screen of sharing, and open my Jupyter notebook. So what you want to do is, instead of, can you see my screen right now? I made a typo. See, basically you will have a different result. That is, in this time you are appending A at the end of B instead of appending B in at the end of A. So that means in this case, that means A plus B is not B plus A. They are different in when using this summation sign during for the list. So that's a difference for this when using this plus sign, right? Just keep it in your mind. Also, list can be sliced using again the index. I think we have practiced the index for slicing strings previously. So for list, it can do the same thing, exact same thing. For example, you have a list T with these 6 numbers, and if you want to just take the element, you want to take a portion of the elements inside this list, and you put 1 as the first parameter and 3 as the second parameter. Actually, this first parameter indicates you want to start with the element with this index. In this case, 1, that's the second element, and end with 3. But again, the second number is up to but not including. Means, okay, this is 1, 2, 3. So this is the element with 3, but you don't want to include this one. Instead, you want to take the one before it. So it turns out you only take these two, 41 and 12. So that's the way you can slice portion of the list using the index. And again, if you you do not put anything to the first element, it will by default start with the first element in the array, and because now you have a second number put here, and that indicates the position with the index 4. That is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is here. And again, the second number is up to but not including. So that means, okay, you won't include this. So that's what you have. Also, if you leave the second number to be empty, that means it will go all through to the end of the element, end of the list. So, and it turns out you have this sub list. So what if both the two numbers are empty? Well, it will take over all the elements inside the list. So these are the different usage of the way you slice the list using indexes. Just exactly the same as what you did for the string. All right. Any question? Okay, let's move on. Also, there are a set of functions which you can consider as the built-in functions for the list. If you list out all the methods for list, and you will see these functions which can be used when you are using list. And let's look at some of them. But first thing first is you want to build a list. In this case, you do not want to put anything to the list at the very beginning. That is because sometimes you just want to select some numbers or select some values, and then put it into the list. That's quite a common case when you write a program. And in that case, you want to create an empty list. So what you do is using this list parenthesis to create a new list and assign it to a variable. All right. And currently, this stuff list has nothing in it. It's an empty list. And then you can append elements in this list. And for example, you put one element, which is a string book. And then you put the second one, which is an integer number 99. And turns out, if you print it out, you will have two elements, book, a string, and a 99, an integer. You can keep on doing this to add more elements, to append more elements into this string, and go on and go on until you're okay, you're good with that list. So that's how you create a string and add elements to that string. Use the append function. There's one way you could testify if some certain value is inside your string or not. I mean, inside your list or not. So Python provides two operations. One is in, another one is not in. But so you can use either of this to testify if a specific value is inside the string, inside the list or not inside the list. So let's say you have a list like this. And if you use this statement, it turns out it will look up whether number 9, value 9 is in the list or not. In this case, yes, right? We have it. Then it returns true, right? So what if we check if 15 is in the list or not? And there's no 15 in this list, and turns out it returns false. Similarly, if you are using not in, so check whether 20 is not in this list or not, or in. And it turns out 20 is not in this list. So 20, basically it will return true. And that means, well, 20 indeed is not in this list. So it will return true. So that's the way you think of how this not in and in will return this kind of binary numbers. And it turns out it gives you a binary number to indicate if the statement is true or not. So any question? All right. And again, this kind of statement in and not in, they will not change. They will not modify the list. So another interesting function is called sort. So it will change the order of the element inside the list. Basically, there could be multiple criteria, but if you put nothing as a parameter of sort, for example, if you are processing a list consisting of strings, so and you put nothing as a parameter for the sort, and turns out it will order the three strings in the alpha beta order. Of course, if you put some parameter, I will show you in the lab session how you could change different parameters for sort. But if you change it, it will order these elements in with different criteria. For example, you could ask sort to order these elements in the reversed alpha beta order. You can have all other options. Also, that's the difference between the sort method in a list and the one in the string. So for the string, that means you are using the alpha beta order. But for list, the sort function could take other criteria as well, according to the parameter you put here. So some other simple functions like the len and max. For example, if you have this list, and again, the len will return how many elements inside that list. So in this case, there are 6 elements, and also because this is an integer list, and it turns out it could find maximum number for you and or minimum numbers. For this kind of list with all numbers, you can easily do a summation, right? Use the sum function, then you can have the summation there. So together with the len function, you can easily compute the average using the sum and the len function together, and then use the summation of all the numbers in the list over the number, I mean the overall count of the numbers in that list, and that's the average, right? So do you still remember what we do for computing the average using loops? It seems if we store our data, I mean all the numbers in the list, it's much simpler, right? Just one line of code and 2 built-in functions, and that's it. You will have the average instead of doing a loop. So that's one good point for using a list to store all the numbers and compute the average. So let's look at the example, right? So so there are two methods, but they have the same input. I mean same output. I'm sorry. So they will. Turns out if you input the same amount of and same values of these numbers, it will return you. It will give you the same average. So let's go through each of these methods one by one. First of all, that's what we need, what we did previously for computing the average using the loops. And so first of all, you want to have one variable contains the total number, which is a summation of all the numbers. And a second one is the count of the numbers. And then we have a while loop. Here we put true. That means it will keep on looping until this break statement is executed. So what it does is during the while loop, this line is asking user to input a number, and if user's input is done, that means this condition is satisfied, and the break operation will be executed. Means it will break, jump out to the loop, and execute a line after loop, right? So, but if this if user's input is not done, the following line inside the while will be executed once and once again. So in this case, first convert user's input to a floating number and add it up to the total variable. That means, all right, we are computing the summation. And also update the count by adding 1 to the count. And you just keep on doing this before user input key in the down. And it turns out after this loop is completed, you can compute the average using the summation and the total count of the elements. And that's something you have over here. But a different way using a list is, all right, you first create an empty list. And this list has a name, num list, right? And again, go inside this while loop, and again, ask user to input a number. And if user's input is down, just break the loop. Otherwise, convert that user's input to a floating number, and then store that number into this list. And throughout the whole loop, this will be executed once and once again until user input down here. And once this loop is completed, you can easily use the sum and len function to this list to compute the average. So what's the benefit? First, only one variable is necessary. That is a list, right? Instead of 2 here. And second, you actually keep all the numbers in this num list, in this list. But for this one, each of the individual input numbers are not kept. They went to nowhere. Only the summation and the count of these numbers are kept. But in this case, you are actually still keeping this these numbers even after you you compute the average and print it out. So that could be useful for some other following computation, because you keep a list of numbers here. So that's the benefit for using a list. According to different applications, list could be a more preferable option than this kind of single variables. So any questions about this average computation? All right. So list is also a good friend of strings. We mentioned list is a good friend of for loop, and also list is a good friend of strings. So there's a typical case is you have a long line of string, and you want to break down this single string into parts and produce a set of string which can be stored in a list. So that's how string and list work together. Let's look at this specific case. Sorry. So we have this line of string with 3 words, right? And the split function can convert the original string to a list of string. For example, like this. You basically this string has 3 words plus 2 space, and this split function will split this original string into 3 words and store them into a list, which is named stuff. And Also, if you use a len to measure this stuff, it has 3 elements, right? 3 words, 3 strings. And you can also use these index to access each of the elements in that string. I mean, in that list. And 0 index means the first one. So this is the first element, which is string width, right? So that's how you split a string and generate a list of string. So actually, this split function takes multiple variables. I mean, takes different variables. In this case, you do not put anything as a variable for split. In that case, by default, split function will take the space as the delimiters to separate this strings. So for example, you have a string like a lot and many spaces of spaces, right? I mean, literally there are many spaces, right? In between this word and this word. So when you use split, it will look up where the space is and separate the string by these spaces. No matter how many spaces you put here, it will treat it as one space. So in this case, it will separate the whole line of string to 4 strings and put them in this etc list. A lot of spaces. So that's how it works. That's the case you put nothing as a parameter for split. Sometimes you can put other characters or strings as the delimiters. For example, in this case, if you want to put the semicolon here as the delimiter and use the split function to split this original line, which is a lot of spaces. And it turns out, I mean, I'm sorry, it should be this one. First, second, third, separated by the semicolons. And turns out you will have 3 elements in this list, first, second, and third. And the semicolon are used as the delimiters. So that's how you can use the split function and set up different delimiter. Same example, same string, first, second, third. And if you put nothing as a parameter for the split, and what it does is it still try to find the space to separate this string. And because in this string there's no space, so it does nothing. It doesn't separate the original string into different elements because there's no space. And that is because you put nothing here. And in that case, a split will, by default, use the space as the delimiter to separate a string. That is the thing you want to keep in mind, all right? Any question in this part? Okay. So we all have worked with this mbox short txt file, right? And that could be some line like this from an email address and a time, something like this. And so basically, you can loop through the whole document and remove the enter, right? The new line character using this R strip. Also, you want to you only want to deal with the lines starts with from, right? And if that's the case, you want to extract some information from that line. And in this case, you use the split. And basically, you put nothing here. That means it will convert the original line to a list of strings using the space as the separator. So it will, for example, if you are dealing with this line, it will convert a list of string consisting of this string, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. All right, that's all you have. And now you want to print out the word 2. That is the third element in that list. This is the first one with index 0, 1, 2. Oh, you want to find which day of that of this email was sent, and so you will have the result like this: Saturday, Friday, Friday, and so on and so forth. Right. So that's how you use the split without putting anything as delimiters. And here shows you how it looks like. All right. Any question? So you can further use the split function to do a double split. For example, this is the original line, and you can first do a split and convert the original line to a list of strings. And in this case, this is 1, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, right? And then your focus is the email address. In this case, that's the second element, and that's why you put 1 here, and extract that element and assign it to the new variable email. Now you have email, which is a string. You extract it from the original line of string. But what you want to have is maybe the domain name, that is the one after the @ so what you're gonna do a further split by using another split function together with the new delimiter @. So this email address, and you split it by the @, and turns out you will have another list, which will be like this. And it is separated by the @ character. And so that gives you this part and this part. So what is your interest in this case? Probably you want to have the domain name, I don't know. But once you have this, you can decide which part is your interest. And turns out you want to extract the domain name of that email address and print it out. That's how you have this domain of the email address to be extracted. Basically, that's the double split patterns. utilizing the strings together with the list, and the split function bridge the two. I mean the list and strings. All right. I think we will practice some interesting examples by using the combination of different functions supporting list in the lab sessions. And here is the summary of these lectures. So basically, you have to have the concept of the list. That's a collection of some of the values. It could be relevant to each other, or it could be even values in different types, right? In this case. And lists have two good friends. One is the definite loops. You can loop through the list and do something to each of the elements of the list. Another good friend is the strings. You can do many operations using strings and a list. So for example, the splitting of strings into a list of words, list of strings. Of course, by not just a single splitting, you could do multiple ones, as many as you want. And again, memorize, you have to use different delimiters to separate that string using the split function. Also, the difference between the list and the string, list can be changed. I mean, the elements in the list can be changed, but string, you cannot. A set of functions for the list: len, minimum, maximum, summation, and so on and so forth. So let's practice more in the lab session. And I think that's all for today's lecture. Thank you for your attention.
Professor, I have a question.
Yeah.
On the syllabus, it says that we have a midterm. I'm wondering when that is and what's the, is it like is it gonna be like a lab, or is it gonna be like an actual test?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I mentioned to some students, we could replace the midterm by another project. So that the thought is, I'm trying to minimize the exams, because I think it's really hard to manage the exam because we are having an online class. So instead of having a midterm, I will try to give you an extra project. So in the very beginning, I'm thinking of having one project. Now I'm thinking of having two. One just to replace the midterm. And I will release what you will do in the first project, I think at next lecture.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Professor. See you on Thursday.
Yep. See you guys.